If Mike Grier wants to be aggressive at the trade deadline and trade away the Penguins pick to add a franchise caliber player to the roster and really kickstart this rebuild, who could be available for the Sharks? So all that and more on today's episode.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Probably part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be looking at very much what if scenario. And we know Mike Grier, with some of the pieces that he's acquired, he's been looking for guys who are going to be NHL ready soon, or kind of NHL ready prospects. Because he mentioned he wants the Sharks to start kind of putting things together here in the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm going to be playing the what if game today on if maybe the Sharks wanted to trade that Penguins pick. I'm not trading their first pick, if that's especially what's looking to be a top 3, at worst top 5 pick in this year's draft. I'm not trading that, but want to look at if you wanted to use the Penguins pick as a basis for a package to try to acquire some either guys who are young NHL players or a certain guy who should be an NHL player. So before we dig into the first name, do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets. If you first bet $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So the first name, and this name has been kind of circulated as someone who is potentially available, and that is one Trevor Zegras, the forward out of Anaheim. He just signed a 3-year contract extension this offseason, or $17.25 million, or $5.75 million AAV. He is currently injured right now, so don't know. I think he's still a couple weeks out from returning. In 20 games this year, he's got 4 goals, 3 assists with 49 shots on goal at 17-19 average time on ice. Corsi for 47.38. Goals for 38.89%. And just like we did last week, I'm going to kind of make the case for and the case against it. And the case for is Trevor Zegras is a dynamic young offensive player. And you're also potentially not only helping yourself, you're also hurting what's, I think, going to be your biggest competitor in the Anaheim Ducks. And as these two teams are kind of on the most similar rebuild paths between the rest of the Pacific, right? You look at Edmonton's win now, Vegas's win now, Kings are kind of win now. Vancouver's kind of their window's just opening. Seattle's kind of figuring things out right now. Calgary's starting to kind of tear it down. Like you look, it's the Ducks and the Sharks are kind of both in the same kind of area, and I think that the Ducks do have a couple year jump on the Sharks, but again, you are adding Trevor Zegras. You would be helping yourself in adding a offensive player who is one of the most creative players in the NHL today. I mean, we've seen, of course, all the highlight reel, assists. We've seen the Michigan, all that stuff. Like Trevor Zegras is a dynamic offensive player, and it feels like he still is kind of scratching the surface of the type of player he can become, right? He feels very kind of like it feels like he hasn't really put everything together right now. And that could be, a sign that maybe he's just never going to put it together. And that could be why the Anaheim Ducks are looking to potentially trade. I think if they get the right offer, maybe they're not actively looking, but they could potentially be looking to trade Trevor Zegras. And, Zegras is still 22, right? It's not like he has played several years in the NHL, but it's not, it's not like he's some old man, right? He's 22 years old, doesn't turn 23 until next month. So, and the contract is still pretty good situation, right? He just signed, a pretty, I think, a kind of a very much like the Timo Bridge deal of, okay, let's kind of figure it out over the next couple of years, and then if things go well, we can sign you to a long-term extension. And he's also an RFA after that deal, so he would be 25 when that contract expires, and you would then be able to kind of decide if you want to lock him up long term, for a much higher price. So you would be adding another dynamic offensive forward, pairs well with guys like, William Eklund, Will Smith, Quentin Musty, potential Macklin Celebrini. It's just another top 6 forward to add to your roster. And again, you're actively taking away an NHL caliber player, a very good NHL caliber player from the Anaheim Ducks. I think the case against it is, what's this? Mom, can we get McDonald's? We have McDonald's at home. You just drafted one of these players, and Will Smith, the 4th overall pick. Will Smith and Trevor Zegras. If you look at a lot of Will Smith's, draft comps, Trevor Zegras is a very popular name that kind of comes up, and you have to worry about potential redundancy with that, right? You don't want all your players to do the exact same thing, and it is nice to have guys who can do multiple things. And we don't know how long Will Smith is going to be in college. That's plenty of time to discuss if Will Smith is ready to come in the NHL right away, or if he needs another year at Boston College. But Will Smith's going to be a Shark, right? And the next, I would say within the next 12 months, Will Smith is, or not 12 months, 14 months, right? The Will Smith is going to be a Shark at some point here, right? If it's not this season, it's going to be the end of next year. So, March 2025, April 2025, Will Smith's going to be a Shark. He's going to sign he will sign his contract, come over, he'll burn that first year, and that'll happen this year or happen next year where he'll burn the first year to get to free agency kind of a little bit quicker. And that's just kind of the price you have to pay with some of these high-end college free agents, or college prospects. But like you already have a guy like that in your system who might be better. And again, like I kind of mentioned, are we sure Trevor Zegras is like really, really like franchise good? His past couple seasons, this year was definitely a down year. Last year, he had 65 points in 81 games. And the year before that, he had 61 points in 75 games. And again, right, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, both years he scored 23 goals, but we're waiting for that. Like, it feels like we're waiting for that, like, pop. And maybe it might be, maybe not this year, but maybe next year's the year where you're like, oh, Trevor Zegras, especially if he stays with the Ducks, like having Leo Carlson in year 2 and having McTavish and et cetera, et cetera. We're still kind of waiting for that like light bulb moment from Zegras to be like, oh yeah, this guy's transcending into like an NHL superstar type of player. And again, you're already paying him almost $6 million. And you're still waiting for that moment from him. So, and again, would the Ducks be willing to trade with the Sharks in the division? Probably, maybe, but you probably might have to pay a little bit more of a premium. And then, you're going to have to face Trevor Zegras for the rest of your career if you're Anaheim 3 to 4 times a year, potential playoff series type of situation with him. So definitely something to think about. I personally, I wouldn't do it. So if it's the deals, basically it's 16th overall pick, plus maybe a high end, maybe not a high end prospect, but somebody like maybe like a Bordelot or like a Bstead or somebody kind of that A- B+ prospect range. That's probably what you're looking at. You look at the Cutter Gauthier deal, where it's a A+ prospect and a 2nd round pick for JB Drysdale. Like, I think I'm kind of in the, I think I'd rather keep my assets here and continue to wait for Will Smith, who I think has a pretty good chance to be a better player than Trevor Zegras. So we'll continue and look at a couple defensemen here, and one guy who I would 1000% trade for, and one David Jiricek, and see if this is a potential something. So we'll get to all that here in just 1 second. FanDuel is ready to celebrate the Super Bowl. And there's nothing better than the Super Bowl because FanDuel, we know the Super Bowl is so great. If you're like me, you look forward to this day. You want to make sure you got your food planned out. You got the best seat on the couch grabbed. Watching the last football game of the season, always a little bittersweet. And then you want to play some bets because there's nothing more fun than actually having, a little skin on the game. So maybe if you're like me, I think this is the Niners year where they're going to kind of slay all the Kyle Shanahan demons, going to revenge for the 2020 season. I think the Niners do it this year. So if you want to head over to FanDuel, they've got you covered with so many different options. I really like, there's 2 Super Bowl special props I really enjoy. One is the Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy to combine for 50 yards rushing. And I think Mahomes could potentially do that by himself, and that's plus 145. And then one that I really like, Christian McCaffrey to score 1 rushing touchdown and 1 receiving touchdown, plus 900. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be a monster in this game. So you can check out those bets plus plenty of others over at FanDuel.com. And new customers join today, you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. And I also want to tell you guys about a new friend of ours, and that is Factor. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery store prep work and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. There are 35 meals to choose from per week, including options from keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons. So you have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Forget frantic lunch preps and rush dinners. Factor's 2-minute meals are your secret weapon in the new year. Fuel up fast with restaurant-quality meals, all delivered right to your door. Not only does Factor offer fast, simple solutions, I'm always busy. So if you're too busy to cook, you can help to stay on top of your goals with offerings like Protein Plus and Keto. You can stay on track, and this is definitely going to come in handy as you try to keep those New Year resolutions up. So head to factormeals.com/lockedonnhl and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get 50% off. That's code LOCKEDONNHL at factormeals.com/lockedonnhl to get 50% off. All right, so the next guy, David Jiricek, the defenseman from Columbus. So there's an athletic article that came out kind of over the weekend that said that he's kind of not happy, right? He's been unable to get sustained ice time in the NHL. He's been a healthy scratch for several games. I think he said he's played a couple, maybe like 1 or 2 games in the past month. Got sent back down to the AHL to go play with the Cleveland Monsters, and kind of came out and said, like, dude, I need to be playing in the NHL. And there's 2 sides of the story. One, I can see the point of view of, it's like you're a 20, 21-year-old defenseman. You kind of need to do your time, keep quiet, put your head down, go to work. I can see that point of view. But I can also see his point of view, right? Especially if you look at Columbus. It's not like Columbus has a bunch of dudes in front of him that are kind of much better than him. David Jiricek was the 6th overall pick in the 2022 draft, right? The only defenseman that went in front of him was Simon Nemec with New Jersey. And I think David Jiricek is really, really good. So let's get caught up on his numbers here really quick. So 3 years left on his ELC. So 2 years after this year, he's played 36 games, has 1 goal, 8 assists, 33 shots on goal, 14.46 average time on ice, 47.96 Corsi for, 40.48 goals for. And the case for is he's really good. Like if you go back to I pulled up the 2022 Elite Prospect Draft Guide. They had him ranked as the best defenseman in the draft. They had him ranked as the best defensive defenseman, the third best offensive defenseman, like best neutral zone defender, second highest floor, fifth highest ceiling. Like he can be like an amazing, amazing piece for you. And again, we don't know what the situation. It could just be, both teams kind of need to sit down and have a little powwow and kind of figure things out and kind of what's best for him. And I think he's just frustrated, right? Especially when he said it, right? Krasinski playing a ton of minutes with Chicago. And that Chicago team is really bad. But this is valuable experience for Kaczynski as he looks to be a long-term piece for Chicago. If you follow me at any point between the 2022 draft, you know how much I loved Kevin Krasinski, and if the Sharks were able to draft him at 11, we would going crazy about how awesome Kevin Krasinski is. So, he talks about Simon Nemec. Yes, I know New Jersey is in a better situation. They can kind of maybe protect him a little bit more, especially when you have a Hughes brother. That team is, much more skilled, so they can kind of shelter him a little bit. But he's been playing pretty well for them. So, but going back to Jiricek's draft profile, before he got drafted, he'd already spent 2 years playing pro league in the Czechia. Again, Czechia is not the greatest. It's a good league, but it's not like the greatest league. But still, he's as a 16, 17-year-old playing against grown men. So his development really helped because of that. He's also 6'3". Like this isn't some little dude that's running around there. Like he's 6'3", grown man, basically, was 6'3", 190 pounds as a 17, 18-year-old, right-handed shot. Like this is a type of these type of guys just don't grow on trees. And you're getting someone who could help fix a lot of issues for the Sharks, right? Is Jiricek maybe a true number one? No, but can he be a really awesome number two? Yes. And then you pair that with Shakira Mukhamadullin. So you got 6'4" Shakira Mukhamadullin playing on the left side and 6'3" David Jiricek playing on the right side. Sign me up for that. I'm very much defenses for nerds, but these two guys, they can combine the defense and the offense type of situation. And I know what you're saying. Why don't you just pick one at 16? Whoever you're picking at 16 probably isn't going to be as good as David Jiricek. Remember, Elite Prospects had him ranked as the number one defenseman, and there was a huge argument where he could have been literally the number one player in that. And you could have picked him number one in that draft. Weird draft. Yes, with Slavkovsky going number one, Shane Wright, who was kind of projected to be the number one, falling number 4. Weird draft. But this is the type of guy, if he is made available, again, big if he's made available, this is the type of player who can kickstart your rebuild because he fits your timeline, right? He's 21. Eklund, 21. Bordelot, 21, 22. Will Smith, 18. Hopefully, Macklin Celebrini, 20, 18 when he gets drafted. Or like, these are the types of players this core would fit so nicely together. And he would solve. And again, Shakir Mukhamadullin, 22. Henry Thrun, 22. Like he fits the core. And he would be the Sharks' best defender that they've had in a long, long time because he can play both. He can be an offensive force and I think he can be a shutdown defenseman. So I know if you look at his fancy stats with Columbus, they are not good. Young player, not getting enough ice time on a bad team, right? We defend William Eklund all the time. Young player on a bad team. Why is he not producing? It's the same reason. So like you have to kind of give him the same kind of credence. So I think, again, why would Columbus do this? Unless David Jiricek literally comes out and says, I'm not playing for you, they're not trading him unless he forces their hand and says, I'm not going to play for you guys. I don't trust whatever the franchise, etc. Then you can kind of have the conversation. But what it's going to cost you, there's going to be a huge bidding war. If Jiricek becomes available, there's going to be a massive bidding war, because what franchise would not want to put in this type of player into the lineup, especially on this type of contract? Again, 2 more years on his ELC. So you're looking at the 16th pick. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2 draft picks. So maybe the 16th pick plus the Sharks' 2nd round pick, and then a player, maybe if it's a Havled or a Furlong or somebody like that. Maybe that, again, B-level prospect with those 2 picks. That's a pretty tasty package for Columbus to think about. And again, I think that kind of makes your defense, the Sharks are looking for that kind of for one, top defenseman. I think Jiricek can be that guy for San Jose. And again, he fits the timeline and he fits the core, and he can come over and he's going to get to play. He can play on the Sharks right now, right? Fine, throw him out there with, you can, when Ferraro comes back, if you want to pair him with Ferraro, if you want to pair him with, Ruda, whoever you want to pair, you can pair him with a kind of veteran defenseman right now, and he would make the Sharks better. He would make the Sharks better now, and he's going to make the Sharks better for the next 10, 15 years. So we'll continue with another little bit older defenseman, but a guy who kind of would fix a lot of the Sharks' defensive issues here in just 1 second. Passion, drive, and patience with bring home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors says everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. There are over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, so let's continue with one Jakob Chychrun, the defenseman for the Ottawa Senators. And this one's a little bit trickier, I think. So Jakob Chychrun, 2 years left on his 2 years, including this year, left on his deal at $9.2 million. So $4.6 million AAV. 45 games for the Sens. This is before tonight's game. He had 8 goals, 20 assists, 105 shots on goal, 22-28 average time on ice. Corsi for 50.23, goals for 45.56. And there has been rumors that Chychrun could be potentially available. The Sens, who are going to miss the playoffs this year, they could be looking to add, kind of get rid of some pieces. There's been some maybe he's not happy in Ottawa. Again, we don't know what's true or what's not, but it's been kind of floating out there that he could be potentially available for a team. Why it makes sense for the Sharks. Again, you're adding a younger defenseman. He's not the same age as a Zegras or a Jiricek. He's 25, but he's still kind of in, starting to enter the prime of his career. And would still kind of fit the Sharks timeline, right? Having a right-handed offensive defenseman, having that type of player who can, is Chychrun left-handed? Why do I just got confused on. Anyway, Chychrun is a left-handed defenseman, my bad. Anyway, but having a player like Chychrun who can come in, run the power play, right? And again, kind of slots people down in their proper place. If you want to have Chychrun and then Shakir Mukhamadullin, as your kind of 1-2, it puts everyone kind of in their place a little bit. Properly kind of slots them in their place. He's still pretty young, where he'll turn 26 at the end of this season. So maybe a little bit older, but I think he still helps out your team for the next several years. Like Chychrun isn't just going to fall off a cliff over the next couple of years. You probably can pencil in another 4 to 5 really, really, really good high-end years out of Chychrun before, you start to kind of see that decline. And then you're hoping by then that your other guys like Mukhamadullin, whomever else, can kind of carry the load while Chychrun maybe kind of slides back a little bit, right? So you would be adding that, helps, again, slot players into position. And the contract right now is pretty affordable for Chychrun at $4.6 million. The case against, he is going to command a massive contract in a couple seasons. So after next year, he has a modified no trade clause right now, but he's going to, at the end of the 24-25 season, he's going to be a free agent, and you would have to extend him. And you're probably looking at, for a guy, especially with the production that he has, you're probably starting at like $7 to $8 million, if I had to guess. Again, this is a guy who's been able to score, maybe hasn't scored the total points that you would want, but I think he's such an offensive guy, kind of playing on Arizona for several years, but I think he's going to, I wouldn't be surprised if Chychrun starts out like making $7 million. The floor is $7 million, especially if it's a monster year next year going into his free agency, but he's going to kind of command a big contract, and you just started getting rid of some of these big contracts, right? Plus, right, you're gonna have to pay Will Smith at some point. I know we're thinking years and years ahead, but Eklund, Will Smith, like Shakir Mukhamadullin, you're gonna have to start paying these guys. Fabian Zetterlund. I would rather see the Sharks' money go towards their homegrown talent than to somebody like Jakob Chychrun, who's, by the time that contract expires, is not going to be worth whatever he's getting paid. So the other thing you could do, it's a bit of a gamble. You trade for him this year. You kind of let him go ham, almost like Carlson 2.0. Chychrun, you go out and you have the best possible season you can have, and then see if you can turn that in next year at the trade deadline. You turn that into something better, right? Maybe, again, if he's not happy, who knows? Maybe you can kind of buy a little low. You let him go ham. You think maybe the Sharks will be a little bit better next year, especially Eklund year 2. They're going to have some free agents. Like, they're going to have a little bit of cap space this offseason. If Will Smith comes in hot, you think Daniel Gushin's going to be on the team, like, et cetera, et cetera. Like, there's a pathway to the Sharks being a better team next year. You come in, you let Jakob Chychrun basically do whatever you want. Just, hey, you see Erik Karlsson from the 22-23 season, just go do that. And instead of maybe not 100 points, but if Chychrun's like in the 70-point range, and then he's, like the Sharks kind of improve a little bit, and he's kind of the main, and then you trade him at the trade deadline, like that's where you could kind of see it. But if it doesn't work, or Chychrun doesn't pan out, or he gets hurt, or just whatever, like there's a lot of paths to that not working out. So I wouldn't do it. I would be, again, I think Chychrun's a little bit older. He would fix a lot of the Sharks' issues, but I think though you're kind of playing the same like patchwork type of solution with him, and I don't think Chychrun would be a good long-term fit for San Jose. So again, of the 3 guys, if made available, David Jiricek, like, yes, get that done. Huge bidding war for that, but that is a guy who can come in and be a foundational piece for you. And then you're talking about Chychrun, or you're talking about Jiricek, Eklund, Mukhamadullin, like hopefully Gushin, Musty, Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini. Like you're talking about players who like you can see how the future for the Sharks will be much better really, really quickly with some of these players. So the other guys, again, I would be a little bit more hesitant, one because of Zegras. I think you've got Will Smith, who I think has a chance to be a better version of Zegras, and Chychrun, who, while he's young now, I don't know if he quite fits the timeline. I think it's too much of a gamble for him to maybe if you try to flip him, there's a real chance that his value might go down for a potential rental type of situation. So that's going to be it for me today. Again, I don't expect any of these to happen, but it's fun to talk about potential trades, right? It would be fun to have David Jiricek on the Sharks. Is it going to happen? No, but there is a world. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back next 2 episodes. We'll be talking about the last 2 games before the All-Star break. And then Friday, we'll have another draft profile. Good friend of ours making his return to the podcast. So make sure you guys are following along for that. You guys can follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube. Definitely want to check out the YouTube channel. I'm going to be at the AHL All-Star events. There's going to be a lot of behind the scenes footage, whatever, interviews, et cetera, that I get up on the YouTube channel. You're definitely going to want to check that out. So plenty of good stuff coming there. You can also find, of course, like I said, find the show any audio medium. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Until tomorrow, bye, friends.